Hi guys, welcome back. This is another video with me and my mum, who's in the back there. Mum, say hi to the viewers.
Hiya.
We're on our journeys again. Good day. We're on our journeys again. We always have a little chit chat. So we were talking about food and the shortage of food. We're in Britain. My mum's Jamaican, but we're in Britain, and we are observing and realizing that people are struggling with feeding themselves and their families, right? So me and Mummy were kind of thinking, you know, what sorts of tips we could maybe give people. Let's say we've got a family of mum, dad and 2 kids. What sort of advice we could give them in these times about how to manage with food, you know, Mum? And we're going to try and think of some things that some tips that might help a struggling family with regards to food, you know, because that's the thing. We all have to eat. Your children have to eat. We can't not eat. So this is out of your weekly, monthly budget. You have to find food, you know. A lot of people are using food banks in Britain because they just can't find that money and that budget for food, so they're having to do that. So let's think about, Mum, some tips that might help people. I think I'm going to start with you know, obviously meal preparation, right? And staple foods like potatoes, right? Potatoes can make a lot of meals, Mum. Would you agree?
Yes, because
right? Filling meals.
filling meal.
Yeah.
You can boil a mash and put a little butter.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you guys are hearing my mum or not. She doesn't speak very loudly, so I'm going to repeat what she's saying, right? Yeah, so you can boil potatoes, you can make a lot of meals.
Quick one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mash potatoes, you know, you can add cabbage,
Yeah, exactly.
butter, you know, these are filling meals. You know, season the potatoes.
Yeah.
Potatoes are they're not as cheap as they used to be, of course not, but nothing is, you know.
Yeah.
But it's a staple and a base.
Staple and a nice
Yeah.
staple if you can manage to put some margarine in it.
Yeah, put a bit of butter, margarine in it, season it up, salt and pepper,
Onion and
onions, yeah, that can be really nice, you know.
That's
Yeah,
very
yeah. And with some mixed vegetables on the side.
Yes, and
Yeah.
a lot of honey.
You don't need meat, you don't need fish. You can actually sometimes just do the meals without that meat and fish thing that we have in our minds.
Your onions, remember?
Yeah.
You have to put a little something in it.
Yeah, you can caramelize
Yes.
the onions,
Yes.
and it gives it a sweeter taste.
Yes.
Side portion of vegetables,
Butter.
mixed veg. It doesn't have to be, you know, just go and get some. I mean, it's not the healthiest option, but we are talking about financial
Yes.
hard times here, you know. But what that is a filling meal at the end
It
of the
is,
day,
yeah.
right? And so on. So that's one thing. So potatoes, again, it can make chips, Mum. You can make your own chips.
Yes.
You know, season them up. You know.
Season it up.
What else?
Even when you fry it, say you fry up the potato.
Yeah.
Fry it as chips.
Yeah.
You can also add some onions.
Again, onions can be really,
Yes.
it kind of
Yes.
changes it all of a sudden. It's something else. It's
Yes.
not just chips. It's, you
And-
know, throw a tomato in there, you know. You know,
Yes. And
we've got to get really creative here, haven't we?
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
there's a term called make fashion that Jamaicans use, isn't it, Mum? Make fashion. For those of you that don't know what that means, when a Jamaican is making fashion, it's a case of looking at what you have, which might not be much, but it might be a mixture of all different types of things, and you make a meal essentially out of nothing, you know. So if someone's, I'm gonna make fashion, anything can happen, you know. It can turn out to be, and sometimes it turns out to be really, really nice, you know. So that's the thing. But yeah, use seasonings. If you can invest in some seasonings, get some cheap seasonings, and if you can't, you know, good old salt and pepper will lift the meal.
Yes.
You know. So potatoes are an important staple. Yeah, you know, because it's the basis of even meals like your cottage pies and your shepherd's pies. Again, you know, if you can manage to find some meat, right, Mum? A small packet of mince, and make that go further. You know, and get some tomatoes. You could maybe feed a family with that. You know, because there's ways to do it. Pasta is another one, Mum. Right? And these are probably things that people already know, but it's just kind of to encourage, really. It's an encouragement video, really. Just to say all is not lost. Use the skills that you have, and couple that with some real creativity. You can really make some good, and there's enough of this sort of thing on social media platforms anyway, where people are showing cheap meals that you can make and stuff like that. But all is not lost, you know. There's a way of doing it. Another thing I wanted to suggest, right, Mum, and tell me what you think about this, is that if you are struggling for food, and I don't think it's going to get any better, let me just add that in for now. If you think about what the current issues are with tariff wars and, you know, trade wars and all that stuff, right? I don't, you know, the stock market's falling, and, you know, there's gonna be food insecurity for a while. I think that we have to start again. This is a financial situation where we don't have much money, but there is a need to stock up on food, right? So how do you do that? How do you stock up on food if you're struggling financially, right? And I think it is a simple, maybe not simple, but you have to be strategic in how you do that. You have to, whether you like it or not, you have to make sure you've got food for yourself and your family.
You have to.
So you have to, and I'm not going to use the word sacrifice because that's not what it is, right? This is survival, and this is, you know, this is something we have to do. So you're in a climate now where you need to stock up on food, because the price of a tin of beans today, I don't think it's going to be the same price in 6 months. Ideally, you want to buy the tin of beans today, Mum. Not in 6 months' time. So I think that if you're able to squeeze that extra tin of beans every time you go, or a tin of tuna, or a tin of pilchards, or just get that extra. If you, again, you know, what I'm saying might sound ridiculous to some people, because they're thinking, well, I can't do extra. I can only do what we need right now, you know. But if you think about the fact that, as I said, the tin of beans might be, you know, 50 pence today, and in 6 months' time it's 90 pence. You know, you'll be so glad that you bought that tin of beans. And I would stress that when you're stocking up, you know, tin food is going to become really important. You know, Mum?
Very much so.
Right? I mean, what other sorts of things will be important but are lasting as well? Because you've got to buy non-perishable foods, haven't you? Right, so you want to buy sugar, you want to buy cooking oil, you want to buy flour, if you can get some rice in there, get it in. You do have to start stocking up, and it's going to be a real challenge for people, right? But I think it's getting to the point now, guys, where, you know, yes, we have bills to pay, and we have to pay them, and we have to keep a roof over our heads, but it's come to a point where people are having to weigh up,
Make.
can I eat or you know, and you know, I think it's getting to a point where we have to put food first, because food is our life. We can't live for very long without it. And so it's getting to a point where we do have to start to prioritize the food over certain bills, right? And it sounds ridiculous, because I hope I'm not making it sound as if I'm saying any of this is easy. You know, I'm not saying any of this is easy, but I do think that we have to switch our choices around and switch our priorities around, especially when we've got children, right? We have to feed our children, and there's no doubt about it. They need food, and ideally they need healthy, fresh food. But you know, it's come to a point where food is food, and we need food, right? And try and be as healthy as you can within that low budget. But food is food at this point. You know, I heard a woman yesterday on a video talking about the fact that it's got so bad financially for. She was an American woman, American black woman, yeah? She made me laugh, but she was actually being quite serious, right?
Yeah.
She said that it's got to the point where she's using her, you know, you get the roll-on deodorants, yeah? And she's only doing 2 swipes a day, so that it will last. You know, she's now having to think, how can I make my own deodorant? And how can, you know, it's getting ridiculous. She even went as far as to say she's going to start shoplifting again, you know. So clearly she means she used to shoplift. So, you know, which is such a shame, really, you know, that people are having to think like that. You know, so we are definitely in survival mode, Mum. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
Very much so, yeah. We're in survival mode, and I think that, you know, all the senses have to kick in, and we have to think outside of the box, and we have to do slow but steady things that make a big difference, you know. And I think buying a tin of beans that you don't plan on eating, you know, but you're just buying it and putting it in that cupboard, you know, the next time you go to the shop, buy an extra bag of sugar, and just do it gradually like that, because, and it sounds small and measly, but it will make all the difference in my opinion. Right? You know, and she's not wrong, that lady, about looking at how you can make your own things. If there are things that you usually buy that you can make you could try and make yourself, then we're gonna have to go down that lane as well, aren't we? You know, it's about creativity now. I think that people's creativity really has to come through now, Mum.
You can,
doesn't it?
Occasionally, make some fritters with.
Fritters is a good thing.
onions.
Yeah, right. There you go. And that's what ingredients, Mum. That's flour. For those that don't know,
some people use
flour, self-rising, or
I
use plain flour. Okay, so start to get creative with your, you know, flour, basically. Use onions. Mummy likes to use onions that change the flavour of things and improve that meal, you know.
You can also, another thing you can do,
yeah,
it's just like how these Indians do their
dal, lentils, yeah, that's right, chickpeas.
Yes.
You know, you're quite right. I think the Indian people are quite savvy, actually, at making really good.
West Indian are
the same, absolutely.
It's the same.
I think it's like you'll have, and they don't necessarily focus on meat either, Mum, or fish. Vegetables can be amazing when you use curries, get really invested in seasonings. I think don't overpower it, no. But if you've got the right seasonings, Mum, you can literally make a vegetable dal, you know, not dal, a vegetable meal that tastes better than meat.
You
know.
must realize when you see me, say me I go cook me soup.
Soup.
It's just
There we go,
vegetable
Mum.
I use. I
Big
don't
pot of
cook-
soup.
I don't cook
There we
anything I
go.
don't-
That's another good tip, guys.
Yes.
Soups, you know,
Yes.
because again they can be filling. Put your potatoes in there,
Mhm.
get your little soup noodles in there,
Yeah.
vegetables, you
Yeah,
know.
soup
And if you have some
the
chicken,
taste,
you know, a few
put
chicken, you can put shred it and put a few chicken, and it's a real good meal.
Good meal
You
you
know,
want to eat, you got
soups
it.
are important, Mum. Yes,
Yes,
I agree.
soups for
I
me
agree, and
is-
healthy.
yeah.
You know,
For
um,
me, that's
but-
what I do
absolutely,
when
Mum.
things are hard.
A bit hard, and you're
Yes.
like, do you know what? I've got to
And it's
actually
so
save a
easy
bit,
too.
save a bit of the
Yeah.
pennies here. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's-
Quick and easy meals.
Yeah,
yeah,
And you're
I agree, Mum.
surprised
Yeah,
when you do it,
Yeah.
how nice
it is.
how nice
Yeah,
it is,
yeah, I
you
agree,
know.
Mum.
You
I
know,
agree.
because you want to leave some for tomorrow, but
Right.
it's so nice.
You end up
can't
eating it
even
all.
eat
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you
It's so
season
right.
it up well. Put garlic.
Garlic's
great.
another again. Right.
Garlic.
Your seasonings
Fresh
become
garlic.
really important.
Buy you garlic.
If you
got
could
it.
get your fresh seasonings, like your fresh garlic,
Yes.
even. But again, this is a financial thing.
Yes.
If you can't, then get yourself a little cheap garlic powder, you know,
yes.
because these are going to make all the difference
All
to
the
your
difference,
your
yeah.
your little meals, you
Yes.
know. One final thing I would go into, Mum, is food wastage.
Yeah, we do.
Right?
this.
I think that we waste a lot of
A
food.
lot of food.
I think that, and I think we're all guilty of that to some level. On
Yeah.
you know that we finished our meal and we just go and chuck it in the bin. We're not looking at it like,
Then
can
you
this
Yeah.
can this make another meal tomorrow?
Yeah.
You know, can I make
yes.
something out of what I'm throwing away here?
We do.
Right, there we go.
can
I think my mum's very skilled, especially with her upbringing and her background.
Yes.
Very skilled
Yeah.
at that. I've kind of, it's rubbing off on me,
Yeah.
because we have to think about saving money and you know,
Yeah.
still eating well. So you have to look at what you're about to throw in the bin.
Yeah.
You really do. And look at as, can this like make a sandwich tomorrow?
Yes.
You know,
And
can this, yeah?
make a soup?
Can this make a soup?
You can,
right?
You don't want to eat salt.
No, not too
But
much salt. No.
Said chicken noodle soup in the
Soup.
packet.
Yeah.
And you add it to
Yeah.
your leftover.
Your leftovers,
or
yeah.
Put some water on it.
Yeah.
Put your leftover in.
Yeah. And there you've got
and then you throw your noodles in it.
right. Fill it out a
your
bit.
Onions,
Yeah.
Prop it up.
Yeah.
Prop it up again. That was
Yeah.
something you cooked last night.
Right. But yet
And
here
you
we have a
leave
meal for
some.
today.
Yes.
Yeah.
you
Out of leftovers.
Yes.
Yeah.
leftover.
Yeah.
And then you
I
have
agree.
your noodle. The noodles
Sure.
bring life.
Sure.
You had you know
Sure.
had your noodle. I don't know.
So really look at your
So you
food
cook in a
wastage.
soup
Yeah.
Out of your leftover.
Right. Yeah. That's what I'm saying, Mum. You know.
Yeah.
Soups are important and they can be made out of leftovers if you're
Yes.
smart.
And do
Even Mum, I was going to mention, even with pets, right? Because we have cats,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And we do that because even cat food has become
Expensive.
so expensive, right? And so again, so what we're doing is looking at our leftovers with regards to the cats.
Yeah.
You know, we're not going to just finish eating and chuck it in the bin. We're going to
No,
say,
we
is
think
there
about
anything
them,
left in
add
here that they
something.
can eat? And it can save you buying that
buying
extra
that
2
extra
packets
thing,
of cat food. You know, so these are things to consider, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of things that you can kind of look at. You know, I would say if you're like, I'm a real coffee drinker, guys. You know, I like my coffee. And as you can see, I've made my own coffee. I used to get a Costa coffee every day on my way to work. And I mean, you know, because I could, you know, I didn't even think about it. I had the money to do that, and the coffee was reasonably priced. But I'm not doing that anymore, right? Because the coffees are really sorry about that, guys, bit of an interruption there. Yeah, so as I was saying, coffee, right? I like my coffee, as Mummy knows, right? And I used to get my coffees every day. Costa coffee is my favourite. vanilla latte, very nice coffee, right? But it's getting too expensive, Mum, right? And so I start to make my own, right? And you can even get, even in some of these pound shops, you can get the actual vanilla syrups for coffees and make your own vanilla. This is just a normal milky coffee, but you can do that and just stop spending unnecessarily, you know, on things like coffees out there on the road. Occasionally you want a coffee, get yourself a coffee, you know, but I think generally speaking, if you're a coffee drinker like me, who needs a coffee every day, likes my coffee, then it can start to get really expensive if I'm out and about and you know, buying coffees every day. It's not really smart at all. So as I say, here's my coffee, homemade, and you know, it's just as good in my opinion, right? So we'll leave it there, Mum. What do you think? We'll come with some more suggestions. We'll do another video if they're interested, you know. If you guys are interested, we'll come up with our own little tips and maybe do a meal so that you guys can actually see us doing a meal, a cheap and cheerful meal, you know. But hopefully some of the tips help, but if you know, help and encourage those that are struggling a bit, and just to let you know that you're not alone in the struggle. You know, there are a lot of people struggling, especially when it comes to food, because we treat food as an afterthought, but actually it's not, is it? It's one of the first thoughts, really. In reality, it is important. It is one of the most important things it's life itself. If we don't eat, we die. So, you know, it shouldn't be an afterthought at all. You know, we pay the bills, make sure everyone's all right, and then we're starving. Well, that doesn't make sense, Mum, does it? You know, it's getting to the point where some of those bills are going to have to get less money. Sorry, but you are. And the food my children have to eat, if that's where we're being pushed to, you know. So anyway, we'll leave it there, guys. Please comment, please like, please share, and let me know your opinion and things like that, right? And let me know if it helped, you know. All right, guys, thank you, and speak to you soon, guys. Bye. And just to add, guys, I just went into Aldi. If you can have a look at that, you'll see that the potatoes were 8p. That's this nice large bag of white potatoes for 8p. So it can be done, guys. Don't give up.